If you're in your 20s or 30s right now, which most likely you are because most of my audience in this channel is between the ages of 18 and 35, then that means that you don't have all that many options to build wealth. And you may know two things right now. One, you may know that you just don't have that many options to be wealthy. And the second thing that you may know is that you're gonna need a substantial amount of wealth or a lot of money if you want to live a comfortable life either now or in the future. So with that said, in this video, I'm going to cover 10 assets or 10 investments, however you want to put it, that everyone should start investing in if they're in their 20s and their 30s, and also how you can change your situation and put the odds in your favor to build wealth. Now, this video is going to be about 10 different investments that you should be investing in. But before we start talking about those 10 different investments, I'll give you guys one really quick example just to show you of how if you start investing earlier or how it can change everything for you if you start investing earlier. So one of the examples I always like to use is the stock market, right? So for example, let's say you're 25 years old right now because most of my audience is between the ages of 18 and 35. So let's take the median and say you're 25 years old and also the average working class person. Now, if you invested, for example, $500 and you started today and you invested that $500 per month until you were 60 years old with a 10% return, at the age of 60, you'd have just shy of 2 million. You'd have around 1.9 or over $1.7 million, which would be from your gains. Now, in the same period of time, if you chose just to save $500 per month, at the age of 60, you'd end up with only around $210,000. So this is why investing in your 20s and 30s is very important. And so with that said, let's jump into this video and let's break down the 10 assets or investments that you should be making if you're in your 20s and 30s. And also, just before we get there, just a quick reminder, guys, if you are new to the channel, my name is Ian, and on this channel, I talk about ways to make money, ways to save money, ways to invest your money, bank accounts, credit cards, just about everything to do with personal finance. So if you like these videos and you like these types of topics, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. I'll really appreciate it. It's 100% free. Won't cost you anything. Also, be sure to subscribe with the notifications on. That way, you never miss any of the future updates of when I post new videos on this channel. And if you guys ever want to talk to me one-on-one about this or just about anything else that I talk about here, you can message me on Instagram. The link is down below. But with that said, let's jump into the 10 investments that you need to be making in your 20s and 30s. So the first asset I'm going to be talking about is one that I gave an example of before. This is investing in the stock market. And investing in stocks can be risky. However, the younger you are, the easier it is to learn from any mistakes that you make and then move on. Now, in my example, you can get a return of 10%, and this is based on the benchmark of the S&P 500. And this is just an index fund that has all the top 500 performing stocks at any given time. And on average, it returns around 10% per year. Now, a lot of people will say that 10% in returns per year is not a lot of money, but if you go out there, it's going to be very hard to find another investment that will yield 10% year after year after year, and the S&P 500 has done this for decades, so this is why it's on this list. Now, the average working person, or for the average working person, it's really easy to start building your index fund investment portfolio, and the sooner you start, the better it will be for you. Now, the second investment that you should be getting into in your 20s and 30s is going to be real estate. Now, real estate is a good investment for many reasons, right? For one, usually there's always almost not enough housing or not enough real estate for everyone. So that's reason number one. The second reason is that real estate almost always appreciates in value. There may be years or times when there is a real estate market crash or pullback, but usually those crashes are only temporary, and long-term real estate assets are usually always going up in value. Now, the average person getting into real estate doesn't necessarily mean that you need to go out there and you need to buy commercial property or you need to buy some big investment property or have a big investment portfolio. The first step to getting into real estate is by simply purchasing your first house, which is going to be your primary residence, because for one, you get to own your own home, and you also get to put those payments towards your own wealth that you're building and not towards somebody else's wealth. Now, I know you may be saying, well, Ian, rent is cheaper because I don't have to care about maintenance and repairs and all that stuff. And if I buy a house, I'm going to be responsible for anything that breaks. And this is true, but overall, in the long term, you'll benefit by buying a house because property usually always appreciates in value, and over a period of 20 to 30 years, all that money that you spent in rent is just gone. When if you put that money towards your own property, then you're actually building wealth with that property. And also, if you have enough equity in your house, you can actually use that equity and you can use it to finance a second property, probably an investment property, something like a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex, or even an apartment, which you can then use as an investment property to earn more income. And there are also ways that you can pull money from real estate tax-free and roll that money into other real estate investments tax-free. So if you do it right, I think real estate is one of the best ways that you should be investing in your 20s and 30s. Now, I know some of you may be watching and you may be saying, well, Eann, this sounds like a really good idea. I agree with you, but I just don't have that deposit to put down on a property right now, and I won't for the next 3 to 5 years. So how am I going to be able to invest with real estate? And the answer is you can simply go to one of these crowdfunding platforms where you can start with as little as $500. And what they'll do is they'll collect all the money from different people. They'll pool all that money together, and then they take that money, they go out there, they purchase or they invest in commercial or residential real estate properties, and then they give everyone a small percentage of the returns. So these would be like Fundrise, for example. That's a popular one. You also have CrowdStreet, and there's a bunch of them. So if you don't have enough money to invest in an actual property yourself right now, then you could choose one of these, and that way you can still get to invest in real estate without having, thousands and thousands of dollars for a deposit. Now, the third way that you should be investing is by investing in education. And this could be like a college degree or just some course. But one of the interesting things here is that studies have actually shown that the best time for you to study and learn anything new and actually retain that knowledge is in your 20s and your early 30s. So the point is this. It's going to be easier for you to actually learn and retain knowledge during this time. So if there is something that you want to learn in your 20s or your 30s, then it's the right time now for you actually to go ahead and learn this stuff. Also, you want to be careful here because not everything that you learn can be monetized. So maybe you're taking some courses because you're really interested in learning how stuff works, right? So for example, how to do roofing. Maybe you just want to learn how to do roofing because you want to know how they make roofs, but you have no interest in actually becoming a contractor, right? Now, this is probably not a good investment in education because you're not actually going to be able to use that knowledge and monetize these skills. So you want to make sure that whatever you're investing in when it comes on to learning and education is actually something that you can actually monetize and you can get a return on your investment. So that's the next way that you should be investing in your 20s and your 30s. Now, the next investment that you should be making is in a business. And the good thing about starting a business is that the earning potential is not really limited here. It's actually unlimited. Now, there are two ways that you can go about there, or you can go out there and do this and start your own business, and you can do this in whatever you want. And again, the potential for explosive ROI is there. It's really no limits here. So you don't even have to create like the next Amazon or the next eBay. You can create some simple business that gives you or earns you a lot of money very quickly. And then secondly, you don't have to go out there and you don't have to create your own business. Instead, you can actually invest in other people's businesses in exchange for equity in that business. So for example, let's say I just started a mobile detailing business and I'm making a lot of money, and now I want to expand my business. I want to employ people. I want to scale this business up so I can actually start making a lot more money, but I don't have all the required capital to scale it to where I want it. Now, you could be an investor. You could come and you could give me thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in exchange for your money or your investment. I'm going to give you some equity in this business. I'm also going to pay you either monthly, quarterly, or yearly dividends, or compensate you in some other way for your contribution to the business. So if you're in your 20s and your 30s looking into starting your own business or investing into other businesses for equity in return, and this way you can actually make a lot of money very quickly, and this is probably going to be the way that you can make the most money very quickly on this list. Now, the next thing that you want to be investing in your 20s and your 30s is Treasury Bills, often referred to as T-bills. And these are short-term government debt instruments. Now, you can get Treasury Bills or T-bills that last anywhere from 90 days, 182 days, 364 days. And the good thing about Treasury bills is that the government is actually guaranteeing you a fixed return at the time of that investment. So for example, you could purchase a Treasury bill today that will last for 182 days, and the government will pretty much tell you that, hey, you know what? If you give us or if you loan us this money, we're going to give you 15% in interest on your money, and that's fixed. So basically, Treasury bills or T-bills are pretty much the lowest risking investment that you could find, in my opinion, because unless the government starts defaulting on all their debts, then you really don't have anything to worry about. But I think this is one of the safest ways you can actually invest when compared to just about everything else on this list. Now, the next thing that you should be investing in your 20s and 30s is dividend paying and growth stocks. And they're a bit more risky than ETFs or index funds that I covered earlier on in this video. But the good thing about being in your 20s and 30s is that if you lose any money here or if you make any mistakes here, you still have a lot of time to, one, learn from those mistakes, which will be a very valuable lesson. And also, secondly, you have time to recover. And this is why it's best to make these investments during your 20s and your 30s. Now, growth stocks are usually stocks that are expected to grow at a significantly higher rate than whatever the industry average is. It's kind of like a case of more risk than more rewards here. So the potential for risk is a lot more, but also the potential rewards are a lot higher. And a very good example of this is Tesla. Now, in 2019, Tesla's stock was just about $44 to $46, and just a year later, the stock surged by a whopping 695%. So that was kind of like a risky growth stock because you're investing your money in this one company, and one, they have the potential for explosive growth, but then also something could go bad and you could actually lose a ton of money. But in this example, the stock rose by over 695%, almost 700%, which means that for every $1 that you invested in Tesla, you'd be getting around 7 times or 6 times that on your investment. Now, the second part of this was dividend stocks, and dividend paying stocks are usually from companies that are very stable and very mature, and the stocks aren't volatile or as volatile as that of growth stocks. Now, the next investment that you should be making in your 20s and 30s is in commodities. Now, examples of commodities could be like precious metals or grains, beef, oil, gold, natural gas, stuff like this. Now, you don't have to go out there and actually buy these commodities themselves. You can invest in what is called an exchange traded product, or future contracts that track a specific commodity index. So for example, you could invest in one that tracks oil or natural gas. Another way to get started in commodities is by using a mutual fund that actually invests in stocks or stocks of companies that are involved in commodities. So for example, you could be in a mutual fund that invests in stocks that are issued by companies that are involved in like energy storage, like oil storage or oil refining or distribution or exploration. And this way you're actually indirectly investing into that commodity, and it's probably going to be a lot less risky than you actually going out there and trying to purchase barrels of oil and the commodity yourself. Now, the next investment that you can start investing in your 20s and 30s is in annuities. Now, an annuity is simply just a contract that you make with an insurance company. And in this contract, they pretty much just promise that they'll make periodic payments to you. And these payments could be starting at a future date, or they could start right now, and you'll purchase this annuity with either a single payment up front, or you pay a series of payments, and those will be referred to as premiums. Now, the good thing about annuities is that it usually comes with a fixed interest rate, and you can use this money for income now, or you could use it for like a retirement income, and you can also choose a term that you want. For example, you could choose like a 3-year, a 10-year, a 5-year annuity, and that way you know that after making this fixed payment or your premiums, you'll be getting a fixed return for that period of time. Now, the next investment that you can make in your 20s and 30s is in ICOs, and these are initial coin offerings for cryptocurrency. And the good thing about this is that the returns are usually insane. Now, this does come with a lot of risk. However, again, if you're in your 20s and 30s, then now is actually the time for you to actually take these risks and make these risky investments, because you have time to learn and you also have time to recover if they just don't work out in your favor. And you definitely don't want to be doing this when you're much older. And these ICOs usually yield returns anywhere from like 12% to over 200%. In fact, there have been ICOs that have returned over 13,000 times what it was initially, meaning that if you had invested a single dollar, you would have gotten a return of $13,000 for every dollar that you invested. And so the potential here to make a lot of money is very high. But again, it's also risky, and this is why you definitely want to be making these investments in your 20s and 30s. Now, finally, last investment, or the last investment that you should be making in your 20s and 30s, is in yourself. And I know earlier on in the video I talked about investing in like education and stuff like that. That can actually help you to make more money, but now I'm talking about investing time into building better habits for yourself. So for example, if you want to make a lot of money, then you need to start building the good habits that will help you to make a lot of money, or even save a lot of money, or even investing a lot of money. For example, studies showed that it took roughly 66 days for a habit to be developed and it to be an automatic action. And as you get older, this time increases. So when you're in your 20s and 30s, it's much easier for you to break yourself into good habits that are actually good for you. And you can still do this very easily and very quickly, but as you get older, that's going to be much harder. As you know, some people may say old people are a bit stubborn because now they're just broken into their ways. So if things aren't going the way that you want them to go in terms of your finances and your wealth building, and you're still in your 20s and in your 30s, then now's actually the time for you to actually start making these changes and developing those good habits, because it's gonna be much easier to do them right now than it is going to be, for example, when you're in your 50s. So that's it. Those are the 10 assets or investments that everyone in their 20s or 30s should be making right now. And I want you guys to comment below. Let me know which of these are you currently investing in, or which will you be investing in now that you've gotten all this info. And also, with that said, if you guys like the video, if you like this type of content, be sure to give the video a thumbs up. I'll really appreciate it. Also, don't forget to subscribe with the notifications on. This way you don't miss the updates of when I post new videos. If you want to talk to me one-on-one, you can message me on Instagram. I'm leaving that link down below in the description. Well, that said, all the best with making money, and I'll see you guys very soon in the next one.